Versatile Mage. Chapter 575. What kind of defense is that? Fuck me, cursed Mo Fan when he realized that the fierce bone undead general was targeting him. When the others were firing intermediate spells at the creature, it only tried to ram them brainlessly, yet the creature simply charged toward him as if it had found its long-lost father, when he only triggered the defensive counterattack of the departing nether shield. Mo Fan was planning to kite the fierce bone undead general using his fleeing shadow. However, when he remembered that Zhou Ming was still standing behind him, it would be a disaster if the fierce bone undead general attacked Zhou Ming instead when he ran away. Black Snake Magic Armor. Mo Fan had no choice but to be a hero once again, turning himself into a sturdy shield to protect his high school classmate. After the Black Snake Magic Armor was summoned, Mo Fan was immediately surrounded by several faint black snakes. As they extended their bodies, his whole body was covered in black scales, from head to toes, a full suit. The Black Snake Magic Armor was not ordinary, granting Mo Fan an imperious appearance. Zhou Ming, who was standing behind him, was stunned, as if she had just watched Saint Seiya putting on his golden armor in a marvelous way. However, in less than a second, the furious fiercebone undead general had reached Mo Fan. It raised skeletal arms as hard as steel hammers and smashed down fiercely. "Save him, quick!" screamed Mu Bai in a panic. Why wasn't anyone casting spells to interrupt the fiercebone undead general's attack? Even though Mo Fan was wearing armor, the fiercebone undead general's strength was too formidable. The armor would simply be crushed into scraps. The weak body of a magician would not be able to survive the impact. The ground had cratered under the fierce bone undead general's attack. The creature pulled its arms back in satisfaction. It glanced into the hole with its remaining right eye where the human was supposed to be turned into minced meat. A human figure had been knocked deep into the ground. The black armor plate was still emitting a reflective flicker. Not dead yet. The fierce bone undead general was slightly confused, despite being an undead. The swing alone could easily smash a warrior-level demon beast half dead, let alone a human. The fiercebone undead general was agitated. It uttered a roar and dragged Mo Fan out from the hole. The creature's palm was enormous, big enough to grab him by the chest. As if the creature was worried that the ground was not solid enough, it raised its other arm and swung it wildly at the hand holding Mo Fan. As the other hand approached its target, the creature quickly let go of the first hand, trying to smash Mo Fan between its palms. The bones collided with one another. The tip of the bones began to crack, with bone splinters falling everywhere. Following the self-damaging attack, the fiercebone undead general finally pulled its hands apart. However, its red eye immediately emitted an enraged glow. The human covered in armor was not crushed by its attack, nor was his flesh and blood splattered in its palms. The sturdy armor simply left a huge crack in its palms from the overwhelming impact. As the creature tried to exert more force, its bones began to shatter where the cracks were. A few segments of its bones broke into pieces and fell to the ground. The leader, Mu Bai, Zhou Ming, Jiang Li, the girl wearing a hat, and the handsome man almost felt like their jaws were dropping along with the creature's broken bones. What kind of defense is that?" uttered Zhou Ming again. She had most likely forgotten that she had used the same words to describe the fierce bone undead generals. Defense. Such incredible armor. It feels like the fierce bone undead general can't do anything about it. The fierce bone undead general failed to smack Mo Fan to death even after it had smashed its own palms into pieces. Mo Fan's armor was simply too unbelievable. Mo Fan remained motile as he escaped from between the creature's palms. He immediately cursed when he realized that everyone was looking at him as if he were a monster. The fiercebone undead general's strength was not enough to break his sturdy armor, yet he had still suffered the impact from the collision. He was feeling extremely dizzy and his bones were on the verge of collapsing. The fiercebone undead general let out a great roar, as if it had gone mad from humiliation. Initially, its goal was to pursue the scent of fresh living humans coming from inside the walls, but now, Its only focus was to smash the human before it into pieces. What are you waiting for? Mu Bai, use your ice spells to freeze its legs. We'll attack its legs so it won't be able to charge at us further, yelled Mo Fan. Mu Bai came to a realization after hearing Mo Fan's suggestion. That's right, he did freeze the bone spike and shatter it into pieces, yet why didn't he try to freeze the lower limbs of the fierce bone undead general? Anything extremely sturdy, like bones, would become extremely fragile after they were frozen. Mo Fan's suggestion immediately woke the team up. The hunter leader, who also had the ice element, immediately cast the spell to freeze the fierce bone undead general's lower limbs while the creature was feeling defeated after failing to crush Mo Fan. The fierce bone undead general's lower limbs were rather thin, even though they had to support such a massive body weight. It was the most vulnerable part of the creature. The effect of an ice spread lasted fairly long. Many people would ignore the spell that did not pose any threat when it was first cast, yet as time passed and combined with Ice Lock, the frost would turn out to be extremely effective. Mu Bai and the leader's ice spells gradually became effective, too. The frost continued to penetrate the fierce bone undead general's bones, joints, and legs. More firepower. Mo Fan had been observing the fierce bone undead general's lower limbs. He discovered that the creature's movement was not as easy as before. Each step it took seemed to require great effort. Alright, now, Thunderbolt. Mo Fan quickly completed the lightning star pattern and pointed in the sky above the fierce bone undead general. Stormy clouds appeared immediately, and following the purple-black flicker in Mo Fan's eyes, a shocking purple lightning bolt struck down with great power. The lightning bolt was perfectly straight, yet it somehow swept past the fierce bone undead general without landing on the creature's body. Holy crap, how did you even miss that? The hell, are you stupid? Did you seriously miss that? Scolded Jiang Li instantly. Idiot, shut the fuck up, shouted Mo Fan. The fierce bone undead general's lower limbs suddenly emitted a loud crack. Lots of cracks began to appear around the joints on the fierce bone undead general's legs, and continued to spread along its limbs. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.